This is Faustino Oro. He is the youngest international master ever in the history of chess. Born in Argentina, Buenos Aires, and right now he is world rank 1457 at the age of 10. This guy is a beast. He has beat Magnus Carlsen in a bullet game and Hikaru in a bullet game, and I'm going to show you those games today. Let's get right into it. So here's the first game I'm going to show you. It's from Magnus Carlsen versus Faustino Oro, and this is a crazy one. Sorry, I didn't have the images. There you go. Look how handsome this guy is. All right, let's get into it. This is a bullet game, so it is going to be pretty chaotic, and that's definitely why Magnus lost. I think if this was a longer format, Magnus would definitely be dominant, but you can see his rating is like 300 points higher, so he shouldn't really be losing when he's 300 points higher. He fianchettas his bishop, plays his knight out, and the knight gets immediately attacked by e5 in the center. Magnus drops his knight onto d5, and we have c4 attacking this knight. This is already pretty bad for Magnus. He could have played something a lot better, but it is a bullet game, so it doesn't matter that much. We have knight c3 now, and d6 by Magnus Carlsen, attacking the pawns in the center. Now takes, pawn takes, and this file is open for the queens to check. That's not what happens, though. Faustine just defends. He knows he's playing Magnus, I think. Sometimes you can play where you don't see them, but I'm assuming he knows he's playing Magnus here, and he doesn't want to be too crazy. We have castles by Magnus, castles by Oro, and bishop to g4 now. Now after b3, Magnus jumps his other knight in, and we have bishop to e3, defending this pawn that was attacked by the knight and the bishop, although it was already defended by two pieces. If he didn't play this, Magnus takes, we have bishop takes back, knight takes, and you're up a pawn for Magnus, so could be pretty scary. We have rook to e8 attacking the bishop now, and pawn forwards attacking this bishop. So you never want to take here, because then you just take back and you're pretty much losing immediately. But bishop takes the knight, bishop takes back, and now rook to b8 by Magnus Carlsen, and queen to d2 by Oro. There's not much that either of them can really do here. They have to wait for one of the other players to make a blunder. You can try to play something like this, but it can always just get taken, and maybe knight jumps in, but you have a couple long-term ideas, but knight e7 is the best move. So, knight e7. So it's kind of rerouting, creating an attack, and that's exactly what Magnus plays. He reroutes his knight. We have rook to d1 by Oro, and now knight to f5, attacking that bishop, and the rook defends the bishop. Knight takes, rook takes, queen takes. They traded everything off into an endgame. Magnus is the master of endgames. However, this is a bullet game, so it is pretty hard, and the queens get traded immediately. As you can see, the valuation bar does not like it too much, and that was probably not the best idea for Magnus because he loses a pawn immediately. And after the push to c5 with Magnus, we have knight jumping to b5, attacking this pawn, and Magnus is in a little bit of danger. If I was in this position and I thought I was beating Magnus, I would make a blunder immediately. But I'm not good enough to get in this position, so it doesn't matter anyways. We have a knight dropping back to f3. Sorry, that's the bishop. But now pawn forwards attacking the knight, and now pawn takes attacking the knight. This is correct danger levels for all you watching out there. If you watch Gotham, you would probably get this wrong and lose your knight somehow. But we have pawn takes back and knight to d5 because this knight was no longer attacked, so you have to move the knight or attack the knight again. Maybe you take with the rook. Who knows? Maybe rook down after that. I don't know. We have rook over, and now knight drops back to e4, and this rook is not hanging because it's defended by the bishop. We have rook takes, bishop takes, and it's still a tiny bit better for white here. He's played very good, amazing chess so far. We have bishop driving back, and now bishop goes to d4. King jumps over, and now king goes to f8. This is an outpost, so it is very strong. I think he might try to trade it off for the knight. I think I'd do that. We have king jumping onto e2, king goes to e7, pawn to f4, and pawn goes to f5, attacking the knight. The knight drops back to f2, pawn to a5, knight to d3, and they're playing this very quickly. Like, they're not thinking about any of these moves. They're obviously thinking about the position, but single moves, they're probably not thinking as much. Like, g4 was the best move, but he just decided to move his knight around to save some time, maybe. He puts bishop on c2, attacking the knight, and now the knight jumps to c3, and after a4, Magnus does not see the right idea. I think he was trying to go where that pawn was, and I guess it's not a terrible move, but after g4, finally finding the pawn push on this side of the board, this bishop is kind of eyeing down these pawns. He's just going to take back immediately, and it does not look good. Magnus plays king to f6, and we have knight to d3 now, and knight to c3. It's still pretty much equal on the evaluation, but I think Oro might be quicker than Magnus. That is very crazy to think, but he plays knight to a2, and we take it. I think it might have just been on time because he's just moving it back and forth, right? Yeah, he just moved it back and forth. Oro dropped his knight back to c1, and he just takes it, and this should be completely winning, but it looks like his knight's trapped, but really, it's not. It's not trapped because pawn takes, bishop to d3. He still has it. If you can't move this bishop, because if you move the bishop, then the knight's not trapped anymore. So we have king to e6, king drops back, king to the side, king over, trying to get to the bishop, and he's defending the square that the knight can go to. Bishop kind of has to take here. He doesn't take with the bishop. We have knight check, king over, rook king over, and he's attacking this bishop. There's nothing Magnus can really do. We have bishop f6, knight takes, king over, and Magnus Carlsen resigns or flags. I don't think that's a time. Normally there's a time symbol, but he beat Magnus Carlsen. This is absurd. I don't know how he beat Magnus Carlsen in March. This is like 5 months ago, 4 months ago. I can't count. It doesn't matter. Who did he beat next? Hikaru! He beat Hikaru. I think he beat Hikaru first, but I'm showing you it second, so you keep watching. Alright, there you go. There are the images. But beating Magnus is crazy. Like, not many people can do that in this world. But beating Hikaru is almost just as crazy because this guy is called the King of Bullet. He wins these bullet championships online all the time, and a 10-year-old beat him. This is crazy. We have knight f6. He plays white in both of these games, which is kind of good. So that means he's pretty good with white. He's a weapon. We have a normal opening, just develops the bishop, develops the knight, and he takes space in the center. That's a common theme. He took space in the center against Magnus, where Magnus plays fianchetto. Magnus played knight f6 here, and he pushed, but a little bit different with Hikaru, playing d6 and knight to c6, and he finally plays knight to f6. Oro decides to castle instead of playing here because this pawn is would be under attack if it was. And he blunders a pawn. Not really. We have rook over, and the knight drops back, queen to e2, and castles. So he might have actually blundered a pawn. We have h3 and d5 now. Bishop drops back to d3. Now we have e6, bishop to f4, pawn forwards, knight coming in, and he is creating an attack. All of his pieces are on this side of the board. Black has already castled. I guess white has castled too, but he's using all his pieces to attack. Knight drops back. Not the best idea because you're just removing defenders, right? Maybe you bring the queen in, but you shouldn't run away with the knight. It's not a terrible idea. We have rook d1. That would not be the move I'd play, but I'm also not 3,000 rated on chess.com. I would probably blunder my knight right there. We have knight dropping back, and bishop drops back to h2. Now b6 by Hikaru. Just like, I'm in no danger. I can just develop my bishop. I got time. But no, you do not have time. We jump in with knight to f5. Hikaru develops his bishop onto b7. We drop back with the knight onto g4. Pawn to c5 now, attacking the pawns. We have pawn takes, knight takes back in the center, hitting this bishop. It's defended though, so it doesn't really need to do anything. It drops back anyways. We have pawn attacking the knight. Knight jumps to e5. Knight drops back, and now we have knight takes, queen takes. This is a bullet game. I gotta specify this. Hikaru, any time format other than bullet, probably beat this kid. But bullet, this kid is definitely quick if he's beating Hikaru and Magnus in the bullet games. We have knight takes, bishop takes, and rook slides to d8. Queen jumps to e3, and rook goes to e8. Rook d4, and he's stopping this pawn from pushing forwards. I don't think he was going to anyways. He wasted this turn, so he could have pushed it before, but we'll see what happens. We have queen sliding over to e7, and now rook to d1, just shuffling the pieces around, and this is not the best idea. If Hikaru plays f6 here, hitting this bishop, he's in a lot of trouble. But Hikaru doesn't play it. he plays queen to f8, and now after rook e1, we have bishop takes e5, queen takes, rook to e7, queen drops back, shuffling the pieces around. This is a crazy close position. Queen to h4 is the best move, going right here, but he doesn't find it. We have pawn forwards, and rook drops back to d1. These are not crazy moves, but finally after this, rook takes e4. He doesn't see it. Rook takes e4 is the best move in the position. That's absurd. He has a couple moves that are still equal, but if you take this pawn, rook takes d8, and now king h7. You could block with the rook, but you lose it. You could block with the queen, but you don't want to trade a queen for a rook, obviously, because a queen can do everything a rook can do and move diagonally. And it's pretty much equal here. That's a pretty cool tactic. I probably wouldn't see it. Queen here looks good. The computer doesn't say it's in the top 5 moves, but that's just because I'm not that smart. And he doesn't find it. He doesn't play rook e4. He plays rook d4. So, not terrible. We have rook sliding over to e8. Hikaru probably saw it, and he's like, uh-oh, I don't want him to take here because that's not good for me. But we have queen to f6 now, and Oro plays g3. Calm and collected, just pushes his pawn, defends this one, defends this pawn with this pawn. He's got the pawn chain. He's ready to attack. We have rook to e5, trying to stop the attack, and looks like Oro can't do anything. Maybe queen here, but that doesn't really lead to anything. We have rook d1 by Oro, and now rook to f5. Eyeing this pawn, it looks pretty scary. We have bishop to b3, and Hikaru's got some good moves. Rook e5, moving it back. Oh, no, here. That's a really good move. But he plays rook f3, attacking the queen. Not a terrible move. Queen jumps to g5, ready to trade off the queens, and that's exactly what happens. We trade off the queens, and Hikaru tries to push his pawn, but it gets taken immediately, and now he has 2 rooks pretty far into Oro's territory, and it looks very scary, and it is very bad. We have bishop takes d5, rook takes d5, and now rook takes g3. King jumps in between the rooks. We have rook check, king over, king jumping forwards, activating his king, and now rook to f1. Rook takes, king takes, and now pushing the pawn forwards. It looks like Hikaru should be in a totally winning position, but remember, this whole game is a bullet game, so it's probably 1 minute, could be 2+1, but I don't think they play that quickly. And the rook is gone. The rook's gone. Pushes his pawn, king takes, and he lost the game. Hikaru just completely blunders his rook. He's like, oh, I'm good. Uh-oh, I'm not good. Game over. Hikaru was in a winning position, was just going to push his pawn. It would have been game over. But it's a bullet game. He doesn't have much time. That is crazy. Thanks for watching the end. If you watched the end, comment pickle because I hate pickles.